Hello, and a very warm welcome to this creative collaboration session. I'm Charlotte Abrahams. In this virtual format, we're keeping our community engaged and inspired by bringing together designers and industry insiders, some really fascinating conversations online. And today I am delighted to be speaking with two really exceptional interior designers. We have Raymond Boozer, who is principal designer of Apartment 48, and Beth Diana Smith, who is owner and principal designer of Beth Diana Smith Interior Design. Beth and Raymond are also founding members of the Black Artists and Designers Guild and have collaborated with S. Harris on a debut collection of textiles and wall coverings and trims centered around history and heritage. These webinars are all about celebrating creative partnerships, and this one between the Black Artists and Designers Guild and S. Harris is really something special. So settle back and prepare to discover Orejen. Beth, Raymond, you're joining us from Los Angeles and New Jersey today, so welcome. And before we start talking about this beautiful collection, just tell us something about yourselves and your interior design work. We've got some images that show just a couple of projects each. So Raymond, yours comes up first. So just tell us something about your aesthetic and these projects.
Yeah, well, I've been doing interior design for almost 30 years, and my style is kind of bohemian. I'm always looking for some kind of inspiration that's inspired by film or travel. And this room in particular was inspired by the Bloomsbury Group in England, Virginia Woolf and Evelyn Waugh, and just sort of like a bohemian kind of lifestyle. And it's my interpretation of what that would be, with some cool Romo fabrics and a rug company rug,
It's
so
really
this was my first show house.
Wow. Okay. And I think the next one has got some celebrity connections, which we always love.
Yeah, this is a really cool project. We did a studio for Build Series, which was a television series that was sponsored by Verizon, and they interviewed celebrities every day. So we had like Kylie Minogue, we had James Vanderbeek, we had Tyra Banks, we had any celebrity you can name, actually.
Wow.
Would be. Britain was there. Everybody spent time in this room, and it's just a place to kick back and wait for your turn to be interviewed.
Yeah, what a beautiful space to be in.
Yeah, this was a former Tower Records store, and the ceiling is like 25 feet high. And when I saw the ceiling, I said, we need a crystal chandelier. And it came from like the inspiration of that chandelier just like made the whole room come together. And I'm like, I just kind of mix chairs and do all kinds of cool things and make it like really lavish. I like to surprise people.
Yeah.
That's what we're feeling for.
And Beth, I think you're someone that likes to surprise as well.
I do. This project is from a bachelor plaid's home that I did here in New Jersey, and his favorite color happened to be blue. So I tried to strategically weave the color throughout the house without it just feeling like it was everywhere. I wanted to be very like distinct moments so you could appreciate the color in varying hues.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
And this next one is your house, I understand.
Yes, this is actually the powder room in my own home. And I really love color play. And I like juxtaposition, and purple just happens to be one of my favorite colors. And once I paired it with this really amazing tile that I came across, I just had the vision to transform the bathroom in this way.
Well, it is incredibly glamorous and puts mine to shame, I must say.
Yeah, very cool.
And you're also founding members of the Black Artists and Designers Guild. Just tell us a little bit about when, and more importantly, why that was founded. And this is one of the projects that you've worked on. But just give us some background into that.
I think part of the reason why Bad Guild was founded is because of how underrepresented Black people are in our industry. And that was the initial foundation. Initially, it was going to start off as this directory, but once the founder, whose brainchild Bad Guild was, which is Melanie Barnett, we realized that it needed to become so much more, because many people wanted community, they wanted collaboration, they wanted to meet other people that were going through a similar journey. So even with this project, which was one of the Transcend spaces at New York now a few years ago, this was a collaboration between myself and Kayonda Powell on behalf of the Bad Guild. And our goal is to create something that stood out from everything else. So we literally kind of created a house in the middle of the Jacob Javits Center where we created varying spaces, and we set up walls to kind of separate the spaces so you could move between living and dining and a foyer and an outdoor space. And it was more so to show, even here, a home office space, not knowing that we would all need home offices a couple years later, but it was really showcasing like, here's what we can do and pushing beyond those boundaries. And Bad Guild has been an amazing experience for me because I got to build so many more relationships with other designers where I don't know if I would have had the opportunity to do that before.
That's really interesting. And I mean, collaboration, as you say, is key to what work the Guild does. And so why this collaboration with S. Harris? How did it come about? And, why was it interesting, Raymond?
Yeah, well, what happened is Melanie had a talk with Jody Feiner, of S. Harris, and she said that she'd like to get someone from Bad Guild to do a collection collaboration. And she was thinking of one person. And so they reached out to the members, and 4 of us reached back and said we wanted to do it. Plus Melanie wanted to do it too. So the 5 of us, Jody decided would collaborate. And we all submitted a Pinterest inspiration thing, and we came together on like what the themes would be. And from there, we started to design the collection. Really
interesting to have so many different people working together. How easy or difficult was that?
It was interesting. It was very interesting because 2 of the people live, like Linda Hazlitt lives in LA, and then Aaron Shakur lives in Chicago. So they were only on Zoom, and this is pre-pandemic, so nobody was really used to doing that. So I was holding up the iPad and moving it around and saying, hey, you like this pattern? Do you like that pattern? Then the 3 of us, Beth and Melanie and I, could meet in person with Jody here, in New York. I'm not in New York right now, but when I was in New York.
Yeah.
And it was an interesting logistic thing, but we wanted to make it seem that everybody was getting the same amount of input. And so, I think we navigated it. We managed.
And you must have all kind of pushed each other in sort of different directions. Beth, is that one of the things you enjoy about collaborating?
I think that hits the nail on the head. I feel like sometimes we get so caught up in our own silo and our way of thinking. I think it's a breath of fresh air to see someone else's perspective.
Right.
And especially when it comes to varying styles, like I can clearly see the similarities between what I gravitate towards and what Raymond does, because we both love color and pattern. But I wasn't as familiar at the time with, let's say, Linda's work. So it was really trying to like understand. I think at the end of the day, it also boiled down to mutual respect. Like we all value each other as designers. So we had to make sure that everyone was heard.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's true.
So the collection is called Orejen, and the idea of origins is a sort of core theme of the work that the Guild does. How does this collection kind of contribute to that thinking, Raymond?
Well, I think we decided to go back to the beginning, which is like origin. So to go back to the source of where like creativity came from. Once I was talking to Melanie, and she had commented about when people don't know the provenance of a fabric and they just assume everything is like from Africa and it's just like one big place. But, of course it's not. So I thought we're going to pick 3 places, and then we're going to like look at their similarities and their differences and come up with like actual like inspiration from an actual thing, and then like go from there. So we chose like, the Pacific Islands, and we chose East Africa, and then like Bhutan. And we just started to, it started with Pinterest. I started with Pinterest board and started to pin things that were inspiring. And then I started to look and make sure they were authentic, before I showed them to the group. And I said, what do you guys think? We have these 3 different places, and everybody agreed, let's do those, I felt like Africa had to be one of them because everybody would expect us to do that. Plus, it's, you know, it's the cradle of civilization. So of course, there's everything's coming out of there.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
we picked 3 places, and just places and things that intrigued me, like the Maori people have always intrigued me. Zanzibar I've always been curious about. And then Bhutan is always a place I've wanted to go like forever. It just seems like the happiest place on earth. And that's what they keep saying. It's the happiest place on earth. So that's where we start.
And there were also craft traditions that are intrinsic to those locations that you focused on
the weaving
too.
and carving and things. The carving from the Maori people is amazing. And the face tattoos and things. I mean, the face tattoos they inspired the Moko fabric, which is best favorite. You know, the Moko means tattoo.
Okay.
And then the Bhutanese people, they have a lot of color, which, you know, Beth and I both love color. And we just use that to like do a lot of things. Actually, almost everything in the collection is colorful. But, you know, there are also color options and there's some textures.
Yeah. We've got a picture of one of the mood boards that you created. So we get some sense of the things that inspired you.
Yeah.
And I'm really interested in this idea of how you take these inspirations and you both, you know, respect the places they're from and also create a collection that is new and of now.
Yeah. Well, Beth, you can speak to this. I think what we didn't want is for things just to be random, you know, like pretty colors. We wanted some source of inspiration for each fabric. So you can see there's a prayer wheel there, and that inspired the mantra wallpaper. You know, there's things about the bazaar in Zanzibar that sort of inspired the Ukili wallpaper with all the baskets that you'll see. You know, the people in general, you know, are sort of an inspiration. The Maori cloaks and things are like lots of texture. And then in Bhutan, again, lots of color.
Yeah. And were you very conscious of this idea of, you know, respectful inspiration, Beth?
Absolutely. I think throughout this entire process, it was trying to marry what we want to see and feel as designers, like what would we automatically gravitate to, hence the Pinterest board, and being respectful of the culture and traditions that not only inspire us, but are how we even got to this place. Like even in the simplest terms, we think about it, we wouldn't have an iPhone if there had not been an iPod.
Right.
So if we're thinking about the history and the culture and tradition of what we see, even with, and Raymond mentioned these, like with woodworking and even how fabrics are made, or you know, the Moko and how it relates to tattoo and how that inspired that pattern, it's all interrelated. So I think to really appreciate a fabric or a pattern, you have to be respectful of how it started in that culture. And I think we see often too much. There's almost an epidemic of creators taking work without giving a nod from where it came from,
right.
Which to be very blatant, I have to say, I find to be very disrespectful. So I think for us, it became very important to say we need to do this responsibly. And also, this is a learning lesson. This is a teachable moment to everyone who picks up these fabrics. Like, we hope that you learn something from what we're doing.
Sure.
It's true. That's very true. And we also wanted to honor the people. You know, with all the names of the fabrics and stuff, we tried to pick words from the different cultures and stuff that had some meaning, you know.
Interesting. So, I mean, it's a really big collection, and all the designs have a sort of fascinating story. So we can't look at all of them, but we're going to look at 4.
Yeah.
And it'd be lovely just to hear the sort of the journey of each of them, from the first inspiration through the making and the final piece. And the first one is called Pemba Coast. So, Rayma, I think this is one of yours.
Yeah, Pemba Coast is my favorite pattern. I was so happy when we were started to do it, and it comes in like 2 great colors. This is actually a project that I did, and I had the curtains made in Pemba Coast. And I just love this fabric. When the guy was hanging the curtains, I was like, oh my God, you know, and I was like, I've been looking at this fabric for 2 years, and I see it like actually as curtains. I couldn't get enough of it. I was just like, this is like a dream come true for me.
Yeah.
And Pemba Coast is just the coast of Zanzibar. It's literally like a coast in Zanzibar. And the way that the embroidery curves like and flows through the fabric just sort of like reminded me of the coast. So that's why we named it Pemba Coast.
And the colors, I mean, I know it comes in other colorways, but this one just so speaks of sea and, you know.
Yeah, this color speaks of the sea and summer or vacation. It's just so optimistic, and that's so much part of my aesthetic and Beth's aesthetic too, is to have an optimistic home, you know, to put like more positive energy into the world.
It's beautiful. And the next one is Ukili, and Beth, I think this is one of, you didn't design this, but you can tell us about it.
So absolutely. I think what drove us even to how we look at things together, and I'll actually start from the bottom with, if you look at for instance, those two pillows in the middle. Now those are Pelela in two different colorways, but even though it's the same pattern, they tell two very different stories. So even when we look at this collection in general, we wanted to make sure that someone could pick up multiple patterns, even if it's from what's being inspired from Bhutan versus Zanzibar versus the Pacific Islands. It's really about how everything works together. And I have to say, like, Pelela is probably in my top 5 or 6 favorites from the collection, just because it's really about, it almost feels like winding roads, and it makes it feel very organic. And then when you pair that with this really beautiful wallpaper, and when you just look at the detail, it's almost what you would see not only in nature, but if you were just walking through a market, you see the different pots with the different shapes and they feel handmade. It's just beautiful. The goal is for you to just take a step back and just appreciate what you're looking at.
Absolutely. And this Ukili, do I understand this right? It's a basket weaving technique.
Yeah, it's a technique for weaving and braiding. It's sort of like a braiding traditional, like people braiding their hair, but they also do it with baskets. And yeah, that is what it is. And that is like coming from Swahili culture.
And this is wall covering. It's so textural. I mean, you just get such a sense of baskets from it.
And it's also metallic. You can't tell in the photo, but it has a metallic sheen.
Does it? Wow.
Right.
Incredibly
this collection
beautiful.
is definitely something that you have to feel as well. It's not just about the look. So Raymond, I'm so glad you brought up that point. Like, you definitely have to see every single piece of the collection in person just to be able to really grasp the textures of the fabrics, especially the pieces that are embroidered, like the Pelela. The feeling is just incredible.
And the Bahari, the pillow on top. The one on top is Bahari, and it also has an embroidered stripe that goes through. It's really beautiful.
Okay. So just tell us just quickly what the inspirations for those were. First, the Pelela.
So Pelela was Bhutan, I believe, and that was just going through. So all the pieces from the Bhutan collection are really dedicated to that winding journey. And a lot of what you see are like colorful structures and a lot of embroidery. So that's what the inspiration for these pieces and everything that you will see within the pieces that are from that Bhutan collection under Orejen.
Right.
And the other design here, sorry, Raymond, I forget the name.
It's called Bahari.
Bahari.
It means sea in Swahili. And the first color we were doing was blue, which is not shown here, but it just felt like a sea color, and it was my favorite fabric, and it was the one I fought for the hardest, in the beginning. And I know, and everybody's like, we don't need that. So Hamptons, whatever. And I was like, yes, we need that for projects. We need it because people are going to buy it. Then we decided to make it in these 2 colors too. So it comes in 3 colors now.
Okay, so you really won that argument.
Yeah. I also use this in my, you'll see in the end, my space inside Harbor, this bedroom, and I do the curtains in Bahari, and they are so beautiful. It's just like so calming. This collection, like every fabric stands on their own.
Right. Bahari is very rhythmic, I would say.
Yeah.
And very different to this. This is, tell us about this one.
Oh, this is Moko. it is hands down my favorite of the collection. I would say it comes in 3 colorways, and I think the first time we saw it, Raymond probably remembers my reaction. I was almost stunned.
Yeah.
I just thought it was just absolutely beautiful. Because for multiple reasons. One, because I'm very big on representing culture and understanding culture, and to see how this was translated by the artist, to see that it almost feels like, because it's so linear, like the pattern, it almost looks like it could be a totem, but then you see a different face going down each time, and like different shapes and different eyes. It's just very detailed, and I mean, my heart skips a beat now just talking about it. And it's available as a wallpaper and as a fabric, and in either, it's beautiful. And I will say that in the wallpaper, the texture, oh my God, you will absolutely love it. It's amazing.
Just tell us a little bit about the inspirations behind it.
So Moko means tattoo, and we were giving that nod back to the Maori people.
Okay.
Who do the facial tattoos as part of their tradition, and that has so much meaning. What they do has so much meaning behind it. So even trying to translate it and give a nod to it, we had to simplify it, because it's really hard to represent hundreds of years of history. So I feel like this was a beautiful interpretation, but they were hands down, the beauty of their culture was absolutely the inspiration.
Yeah.
And it's such a rich pattern, but actually just from a sort of, using it, as a wallpaper, it really works. It has such a rhythm, doesn't it? That it actually would be quite easy I can see how it would be easy to live with, even though it's so bold.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think even how we see it here, I mean, I can see this in the lobby of a hotel. I could, as the wallpaper, I could also see this as someone's curtains in their bedrooms. Like, it has so many applications, and kind of pushes you to think outside of the box.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And every color feels different.
Is it?
Oh,
yeah. How many
absolutely.
colorways is it in?
3.
3 colorways.
One has a lot more blue, and one has a lot more kind of like reds. It's 3 very distinct vibes, I would say, in every colorway.
Yeah. And this final one we've got is mantra. Raymond, tell us about this one.
So mantra, everyone knows what mantra means. It's like when you repeat something over and over again, it's a repeated pattern. But it really was inspired by the prayer wheels in Bhutan. There's some really beautiful, colorful prayer wheels that are, hand painted and carved. And it just is like an homage to the Bhutanese people. This is available in 3 colors. And it was one of the things, the first wall covering that we all discussed, and we just agreed it had to be part of the collection.
Yeah, it's very beautiful. Tell us a little bit about how it was made, because I think this one's a bespoke one. Is that right?
Yeah. So this was it was designed, of course, but it's a stamped wallpaper. So it's like hand stamped. So it looks almost like a block print thing, but it's not flat. It's a texture.
Lovely.
And of course, it's on metallic.
Yeah, beautiful. And I think in this next picture, we get to see the designs we've just been hearing about, plus some more kind of come together. And there's the Moko, and you can see, I mean, it's extraordinary how each design, which is so rich, and how well they work together. Was that always a consideration, that you wanted it to work together?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think part of what our goal was, could a designer walk into the showroom, look at these fabrics, and be able to design even just one room using multiple? And I think that was the plan, to make them all play beautifully together. And a lot of what we talked about was also that they're so beautiful, they're artistic. So that's why we framed 3 of the pieces. One is a trim, and then you see, oh my God, I'm forgetting.
Pemba Coast in the middle.
Pemba Coast, thank you.
Pemba Coast.
And Tinga Tinga.
Yeah.
And I said, we should frame these as part of it, because I feel like that's something that someone could actually do, like going beyond what we would traditionally do with a fabric or a wallpaper, and frame them as actual art, which is something that I do in projects often, because if something is beautiful, treat it as artwork. And I think that's part of what we did here, and showing the different usages.
Yeah, it's a really clever way of doing it, because it's so much more interesting than the sort of the feature wall, which is a bit kind of unsubtle, isn't it? That's such a clever way.
Yes.
If I'm allowed to say that. So very excitingly, in the UK, we can now see this collection at the Fennel and Giron, the showroom at Design Centre. But it's already launched in the US, and you've both used it in live projects, haven't you?
Yeah, we have.
Yeah, so tell us about that. And we've got some images. Raymond, the first one is yours.
Yeah. So I did a bedroom for a show house in Sag Harbor for Gallery Magazine, and I used the Hinkton wallpaper, which is my favorite wallpaper in the world. And I said to Jodie Feiner, I need this wallpaper for this room, and I need to use like all of it. So it's like 56 yards of wallpaper on the walls. It is so cool. It's one of my favorite things ever. And then on the chairs, I use Fernwood, which is one of the wallpapers that was inspired by Zanzibar, East Africa. It's texture. And I also, in the next picture you'll see, I've used the Bahari for the curtains in the room.
Oh yeah.
So you see how like calming it is and so different. Yeah. Every fabric in this collection stands on its own.
Yeah.
It's just like this Bahari fabric is just like, I know that people will love this. And I was like, you guys, you have to keep this fabric in the collection. And we did, because we had so many options, and it was really hard to like let some of the stuff go. But we had to. You can see also I used Pemba Coast on the upholstery. And then again, the Hinkton wallpaper. And the Pemba Coast is another Zanzibar thing. But I just thought, we take all these things that are different cultures, and we usually just steal them from people. We take these and we wanted to pay homage. And I thought, I want to show people that you can use these in a classic interior and have it make sense, And I hope it makes sense. I'm just assuming you like it.
Yeah, no, I think it's absolutely beautiful. It's so joyous, and it's so, as you say, it's I don't know, it's of itself, and it's completely of its inspirations. It's a very clever combination. And Beth, this is you.
Yes, this is Mahji and Petal, and this was for this year's Design on a Dime, which is an annual event in New York City that raises money for charity. And I wanted to use it on this Barbana chair from Arteriors that I'm obsessed with. And I just thought it could just be really beautiful to show the pink with the metallic backing against the antique bronze, almost hammered look of the metal chair. And that was my inspiration to kind of just bring those two pieces together. And even for me, someone who does not normally gravitate to pinks in general, Mahji and Petal is such an absolutely beautiful pink that I wanted to push my own boundaries a bit and say, you can embrace this and use it how you would how you would want to use it in a project. And this is just showing kind of like how I used it, pairing it with like kind of like gold, purples, and mauves with that black and white pillow and yellow, just showing kind of, I like a lot of color play, and that's what I try to do here. And then I'll also be using Mantra's wallpaper in a client project soon at the end of the year. And also planning on using it in my own home as I get ready to renovate my second floor.
How fantastic. Well,
great.
I mean, it is the most beautiful collection, and we are thrilled that we're finally getting to see it here in the UK. Congratulations, and
Thank
thanks
you.
so much for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you
thanks
so
for
much, Charlotte.